It's Edge Radio Australia. It's time for the Genius Zone. The lovely Terry is with me, bringing all of your geniuses and, a few others, because I believe you have a special genius there on the old podcast coming through in just a moment. Would you like to do the introductions?
Yeah, hi Aaron, how are you on
I'm
this
lovely.
fine Wednesday?
It is a fine
Do
Wednesday.
you know that they say that the best cars were actually made on a Wednesday?
I have heard that, yes.
Yeah.
Monday, we're all a bit hungover from the weekend. Friday, we can't wait for the weekend.
That's
so, yeah, a
right.
bit of finger trouble, we'll call it. Yeah.
Exactly, like I don't like Mondays. So Wednesday, apparently everyone's kind of peaking. So
Okay, is this why we do the show on a Wednesday?
Oh, absolutely. There's
Okay.
always a strategy behind everything, even if it's an invisible one or one that we didn't even know about.
Even if we have to replay the show on the weekend or whatever, at least we've planned it for the day that we're the sharpest. I like that.
Well, yes, we try.
Yeah, it's a figurative speaking.
Yes.
Yep.
So, as you know, Aaron, I've got a podcast and I bring on some of the most incredible coaches, healers and leaders.
You definitely do.
And, I love to sort of give them a platform. So that's the podcast, Terry Messenger's Genius Zone. And I have a lady who I did a podcast with and I decided she had to come on to Edge Radio.
Right. Well,
I
that's
decided I wanted to invite
statement.
her on because, it is a big statement because, we'll only bring them on to Edge if they've got the edge.
Boom, boom.
Boom,
Oh,
boom.
jeez. It's almost like you wrote that yourself.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit on edge today.
You are.
And so the jokes continue.
Oh, dear.
So this lady, she is a beautiful woman. She's a publisher.
Right.
She is a coach. She is an artist. And she also comes from Auckland.
Okay.
So she's got a bit of a interesting background. And she's also a person who is advocating for the ageing population.
Very important thing to do.
Well, we're all
Hugely.
doing that.
We are. I'll tell
We're
you.
all
I'm
aging.
every second, so trust me.
I'm aging backwards.
Are you really? Jeez.
I wish.
Yeah. If you could help me with that, some advice, I'd love that very much. So.
So this beautiful lady, her name is Kez Wickham, St. George.
Yep.
And Kez is incredible. She will help put people on the map in writing and becoming the author of their own book. She's also launching people in her magazine.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunity here today,
Lot going
Aaron.
on.
And I thought that, why not bring her on the show?
Well, let's do this. I will click the button and instantly Kez will appear. There we are. Lovely to see you there, Kez.
Hello, how are you, Kez?
I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
I am all the better for hearing you.
Wonderful. Now, are you actually in New Zealand as we speak?
I can barely hear what you're saying.
Okay, so Aaron just said, "Where are you in New Zealand?" But we both know you're in Perth, Rockingham.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
You can hear
Is it Aaron? I can't hear him.
earphones.
Oh, look, yeah, no, I can definitely hear you, so that's all right. Do you know what? We've got you on here to talk too.
Just yell at me. I'm fine with that.
There you go. I'm happy with that too. You guys just press the buttons. Don't even need
So
to be
this is
here.
where we can talk about Aaron, right?
Of course,
So,
yeah.
so look, Kez, Aaron can hear you anyways. So not sure what's happening with the sound today, but that's okay because the most important thing is that you have something, obviously very powerful in helping people to, get on the map, write books, do all that authoring and things like that. What do you think are some of people's biggest roadblocks as far as writing a book?
Did you say blocked? Did you say roadblock?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Most people I meet, they all have, everyone's got a story to tell. The most people I meet, they don't know how to tell their story.
Agree.
And so you've got to, we're dealing with an aging population. The problem is there are not just one or two of us, there is thousands of us within Australia and New Zealand now. So we are the baby boomers. And you'll find that within our population, nobody, well, I can't say nobody, a lot of us did not bother to go down the road. We weren't offered the opportunity of journalism. We weren't offered any opportunities at school except hairdresser, typist, receptionist, nurse. You know, those were the things we were offered. And so we went with it. We didn't know any better. We went with it. We weren't taught on how to represent our voice. And that's the biggest thing I've ever learned.
Yeah. Do you think that's because there was that children are to be seen and not heard kind of
Oh, of
population?
course, I was one of them.
Yeah, so, because I know that quite a lot of people, what happens is that they don't want to speak their truth. They don't want to show up. They think there's also that concept that you expire. Like, would you agree with that,
I
Aaron?
thoroughly agree with that.
You know,
So
that-
you get to a particular use by date.
Yes,
Which,
yeah.
as I get older, I keep pushing it, further and further away. I sometimes I feel like I'm the milk that you drink the day after the best by date, like a little bit like that.
I like that concept, but I don't like milk. So you'll have to come up with another theory next time. But Colonel Sanders actually didn't come into his livelihood and his riches and his success until he was in his 60s.
I think he was a little bit chicken. That's what it had to be. Simple as that.
So, what message do you have for the aging population? Because obviously, I feel that a lot of women, and I know that, with men, I don't know whether this is just cliche, but they say that men get more handsome when they get older.
Okay.
They get a little bit of, that
Salt and
whole
pepper.
charisma happening with them. And yet for women, they often feel like they become invisible. And then if they haven't got a voice and they're not speaking their truth. So, what is one of the most important things you would say to the aging population to ensure that they're thriving and they're living their best life?
Your voice is very important. Your life is very important. If you don't leave a legacy, then how are you, Terry, because you're a lot younger than myself, how are you going to know how my life went? Okay, so we've got podcasts and we've got videos and goodness knows what. But believe you me, when I pulled out the book of my grandmother from my mother's bookcase, I was never prouder because I could see her photos, I could read her words. And the same with myself. I've written my bio and my children. It's a simple fact that it's not like we just not sitting in front of a computer anymore. We're actually going to the bookcase to look for Nana. That's how I saw it. I was quite honoured that they actually went, they waited for the postman, my book arrived. It's an honour to have your words read. It's learning or gaining the courage to step up and say, I have a voice. I'd like to use it. I'd like to be part of something that leaves my legacy.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm all about legacy. I believe legacy leaders, and I feel like there's more ways to lead a legacy than just a book. I mean, take Aaron and I, for example. Either of us don't read. I mean, I don't think he does. I'm not really a reader either, although they do say that readers are leaders.
I have heard that.
But then, we listen to radio. We listen to audio.
And I'm different. Like, everybody's different. Like, for me, okay, I take a lot of information in, but I want it short and sharp and to the point. I don't want all the flowery stuff. I want the information. Can you give me that? Can I have that novel in a brochure? And I'll be right for it, right?
Yep.
So we're all different. And, as far as leaving a legacy, Kez, I'm 1,000% with you on this one. I think this is something we should all be striving to do.
Yeah.
It's a big part of, well, quite frankly, the legacy. You leave your children, your grandchildren. And if you can actually do some good for the world, leave the world in a way than when you found
Do you
it.
journal though? Like,
No, I don't.
You
no.
don't journal.
No, no.
Okay,
But
so I
because of-
journal. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because I do a lot of video, obviously.
Yeah.
To me, that is kind of my journal, I guess.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
of course, exactly. I mean, your voice is your journal. I mean, these days you can actually take everything that you've done and you can transcribe it, which
True.
I believe Kez would know all about that. In fact, I tell people to do that. Like,
Right.
if you are wanting to, I'm a content creator. I
Sure.
mean, I've been creating content for many years with the NLP and hypnosis.
Of course.
And yet I'm not a reader, as I said. However, I do a lot of writing, which sounds really bizarre. And I reckon I'd have 4 half-written books sitting in my computer, Kez. And, I'm kind of wondering if one day, either when I die,
Well, let's do
or,
it before
you know,
you die, right? There's probably some good
or,
advice.
or maybe if I'm lucky,
Yep.
during my, my lifetime, maybe I'll grab each, part of these books and the different things that I have written and journaled and compile them together. But speaking to people out there, because obviously I work with a lot of coaches, a lot of them are aspiring authors, and I have told my community, if you can't watch live, make sure you come back on the replay. So what's the first thing you would say to someone who wants to write a message and perhaps wants to, create their first book? What would you say, how to lay it out? What would be the most important things to lay down?
The most important thing to lay down is your agreement with the universe when you were born. And that is for your voice to be heard. To put it onto a page, we can start anywhere. For instance, there were 2 things that happened to me this morning. One is I wrote 2 bios for 2 seniors. One was a professional. Her bio was perfect. I could not fault it. I put it through everything to try and find a mistake. Nothing. Perfect. It's got a photo, sent it through. My next client has never written in her life. So we spent 3 hours. That's a long time to spend with anyone. I was trying to splice hairs. Where did you come from? What was your first recognition of I'm alive, my eyes are open, I can see things? What do you remember? She was 3. When we got back to it, she was 3. And we started from there when she was 3. And, we don't remember everything, but there were certain things that she remembered. When she was 4, she was in a big car accident. It brought her back to that moment. Who was there? What happened? Mum was screaming. Dad was yelling. Ambulance. We went through the whole thing. Okay, it may have been a painful memory for her. But as we got on, within the 3 hours, we got up until she was 60. And that's what I had to work with. It's sitting back and thinking to yourself, what actually do I want to say? What is my message to the world? Am I important? Well, yes, you are. Your voice is very important. Some people say that when this world disappears, whenever it's going to, we're going to go back to the old ice age. Well, we're going to have to learn to look after ourselves then, aren't we?
Look,
Build
absolutely.
our fire, do our own washing, learn to preserve our food. And if it is true, then what better to go and get a book from Grandma that she lit the copper and preserved the food? What better way to do it? You're not going to have electronics if we ever do turn around and go back. Who knows what's going to happen? All I know at the moment is that I spoke to a young woman this morning, beautiful young lady, that her husband has lost his memory and lost his words. It's gone.
That sounds familiar.
Just a little close to home.
It should do. It was you. His voice is gone.
I'm not young.
Well, there you go. You are young. Jeez.
But thank you. I love the compliment, and yes, in fact I thought that was just such a coincidence that you said that. Yes, indeed.
So who better than to write his voice for him? You said that he was a beautiful man and had a business.
Yeah,
And his
yeah,
clients were concerned for him. What better way than to leave his legacy, than to leave a letter to his clients?
I've been seeing this a lot, actually.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's a lot floating around on social media about the fact of going and talking to your parents, grandparents, and actually putting it all into a book. Okay,
Yeah.
there's of words and pictures, popping in the photos, and all of
Yeah.
that. And I think that is just absolutely beautiful. I think it's
Yeah.
something you need to do. I know from my own life, there's so few pictures of my mum passed away a long, long time ago, but so few photographs of her, and how much I would like to have had more. I would have actually liked to have had more words, and a book to go and open would have been just a fantastic thing.
Yeah,
And I take
absolutely.
it further back. I know that my mum had letters from her uncles and that who were actually literally in the trenches of war in France and all. Like these things are, I mean, they're national treasures, things like that, and they should be in books that other
Yeah.
people can learn from
Yeah.
and have that
Look,
experience.
absolutely. And like I was sharing with you, Kez, this has possibly been the most spiritual experience I've ever had in my life. And I've always considered myself, a spiritual being
Yep.
having a human experience. And the depth of what I'm experiencing, and like I said to you, the knowledge, because so many of us suffer from emotional turmoil. There's a lot of depression.
Huge amount.
There's so much burnout. There's so much anguish going on in the world, and a lot of that is because people are not aware and they're not integrating properly. And I was thinking to myself how, and I was saying to you as well, that I have suffered depression in my life, but what I'm experiencing here and now is not depression.
Okay.
And the difference is that it's grief. And so grief, 1 minute, like right now, I'm completely okay. I'm in myself, I'm in my presence, and I'm just enjoying this conversation. And the grief will come as a wave, and you won't know when it's going to come.
Completely understand.
It'll just hit you like a rocket, and you'll go, oh, holy dooly,
Yep.
and it'll knock you for a six. But do you know, with relevance to what you're talking about, one of the greatest things that I have found is when I am writing, and I I have a lot to do with AI, and I was going to actually ask you whether you use AI and you recommend AI in a world that is definitely inclining going forward that way. But when coming back to it, I have a whole book in AI, and I'll ask AI about the spiritual elements of what my husband is going through, the medication, and I feel like I can ask from a doctor's point of view, I can ask from a spiritual point of view, I can ask from a counselor's point of view. And if you know how to speak into AI, it knows how to give you back this story. But one of the things that I was doing is I had a client, and she probably, if she listens to this, she'll know who she is, but no one else is going to know who you are, Dal. But what happened was she was talking to me about how she really wants to move forward in her business, but she's blocked.
Right.
And she's blocked because she's got so many personal issues.
Okay.
So she's got so many of those, elements that come up in our life, that that voice in your head that you talk about, Kez, where, especially because she comes from a European background, old-fashioned kind of parents
Sure.
and all that kind of thing, and Russian, and so definitely you were seen and not heard. And so it was interesting that I said to her, well, look, we've actually got 30 minutes here.
Okay.
So can you just humour me on this one and let me unfold your business, your message, your niche, your story, and who you are? And even though I knew she was hungry for the NLP
Sure.
element, the hypnosis, because we've known each other forever.
That
I mean,
helps.
she's a brilliant practitioner herself. The fact is that I said, look, no, just humour me on this for a moment. So what we did is we went back and we were looking for her client, her ideal client. But what I was saying is I was getting her to describe her own pain.
Okay.
What was the pain you were feeling? Like, what have you been through in your life that has really caused you so much grief that today you're still getting triggered from it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so as we, and then she was able to go back and say, well, there were these feelings, and start unpacking the emotions and the feelings and everything else. And then I went about saying, well, what is it that you dream of? Like, what is it that you don't even tell anybody else that you're dreaming about, that you truly want? And usually, if a person is, seeking, that relevance or that success
Sure.
or whatever it is, it's because there is this yearning within them that there is a legacy, and
Okay.
that legacy is calling to them.
The calling, I think, is a very important sort of term, to be frank. I think that a lot of people that don't feel a calling towards leaving a legacy, they're going to live their lives and float along.
Yeah.
But others are led to do it. And obviously, in the case of Kez, you're led to, as you put pen to paper. You started by talking about with the AI sort of thing.
Yeah.
Was that regarding like writing your own story? Or like,
Yeah,
'cause
so
I'm a
it's
little curious on that.
I fell over this stuff.
Okay.
I did not learn it, and nor did I go looking for it, because
Okay.
honestly, I'm terrible when it comes to, being a student. I'm the contrarian.
Right.
Um, I'm the person who polarizes, okay?
Well, there's
Before
nothing
I
terribly wrong with that.
But, so when I discovered the AI, I have a knack of asking questions. Like, Kez, you would be the same. So you'd be obviously diving in, like you said, about that bio, where you don't need a big polished kind of, fancy spancy kind of words,
Sure.
but it's more about the deep kind of
Well, if you resonate
elements
with
of,
people, I would think that would have a lot to do with
like
it. Yeah.
your story, Aaron,
Well, it's
the
long and
freedom of
complicated.
speech, and the ability to stand up and be counted, and to stand for people and men who've lost their children, and all that kind of jazz. So
Yep.
it's that stuff. It's the juice that people are really attracted to.
I get that.
And
But I mean,
yeah,
putting that juice, squeezing it into a bottle and turning it into a book, I suppose that's something that Kez, that's something you specialise in?
she certainly
I can
does.
hardly hear you, Aaron, so I will try and answer you. But I really specialize in mentoring people to write their books. That's what I specialize in.
Yep.
And then once they've written their books, I'm happy to publish them or send them off to a reputable publisher. But, we all have to get the book written first of all.
That's it. That's it. Do you actually do that part of it, Kez, where you're helping to, do the content part of it, or is it more about the publishing and, I guess, the part that I would find so overwhelming?
It can be overwhelming. When I first started to publish, I got a lot of people saying, pick me, pick me. You have to be very careful. You have a name out there as a publisher. You don't want to be publishing rubbish. You have to have a very, very high opinion of what you want to be published. Then when they come to me, now some of my clients, they haven't written their book. We start off from literally stage one. When the other clients come to me and they have a book, hallelujah, have you had it edited? Okay, let's have it my way. And then I get it proofed for them. I have a beautiful proofer on board. And then I have an amazing one in Sydney that all the formatting for me. I literally show them how to pull their own book together, get a book cover, and get it published. If they still want to continue with me, that's fine. I'm happy with that. But you also, once you've worked with me, you will have the skills on how to publish your own book.
That's amazing. And have you ever had a person who has literally written maybe a chapter or something, and they've gone to publish the book and they've got the last minute heebie-jeebies,
Oh.
and they wanted to pull out that chapter because maybe they divulged some really personal stuff? I'm going to tell you the reason I'm asking you that question And that is because I'd love to say it's only happened once, but I can say it's happened twice now.
Okay.
I mean, I've only been a podcaster for 3 years.
Right.
However, in that 3 years, I've had 2 people that have reached out to me and said, can you tear it down? And
Really?
yes.
Okay.
And it's been quite critical. Like they've said, no, the reels as well, everything. Because what's actually happened is, I mean, no fault of mine. I mean, would I say that it's like,
I don't know,
definitely your fault. But no, because they have felt, look, in one particular case, she had obviously a treacherous past. And, you know, we love to bring up all the juice and
Sure.
all of that. That's what I love doing. And I'm a bit of a drama queen. And
Not at all. Come on.
and, you know, so they share, and I always warn them. I always give a disclaimer and say, look, this is a brand story.
Yep.
You know, we're going to be bringing all of this out. Yes. And then they do it. But it's almost like they have a transformation or something changes, and then they come back and they want to just rip it off the internet. They want to take it off, and
Strange, isn't it? What, like kind of just forget your history, I guess?
Yeah,
Is that-
no, shame that it's
okay.
going to fall into the wrong people's hands.
Right.
That it's been written and it's out there for the world to see, and maybe it'll fall into their ex's hands, and maybe they rekindled their love. Or
Oh, dear.
I'm just making that up, right? But you know what I mean.
I absolutely know.
Yeah. So tell us, has that anything like that? Have you ever known that to happen to you?
Of course, it happens all the time. The beauty about being a publisher is once you've had it proofread, not formatted, but proofed, then you send it back to your client and you say to them, read it. If you want something changed, now is the time. If you want something deleted, now is the time. Because once you give me the approval, it will go to be formatted and then it'll be sent to you again. But, you know, once it's formatted, it's almost sealed. It's almost like you can make slight changes, but if you start making changes to a professional format, then you change the voice of what's on the paper. So I walk them through it. What do you want to change? Why do you want to take that out? Okay, ex-husband, as you said, violent, will get in contact with me. I need to protect myself. That's fine. Let's take it out. Or I show them very carefully how you can reword so it's not as harsh. Now, for instance, I had a client 3 nights ago say to me, I think that my post is too harsh. Can I take it out, please? I said, let's work with it. So we spent an hour, at least about midnight it was when she got hold of me, rewording that particular chapter. And when she'd finished, she went, I'm crying. It's so beautiful. It's so forgiving. Let's go with it.
Oh, that's amazing.
I want to bring up actually Marcus put through a comment, and we
Yeah.
actually love obviously getting comments and questions through. I think this might be interesting. Interesting.
You're going to have to yell at me, Aaron. I can't hear you.
So I have absolutely no idea why, because everything looks great here, but hey, the internet does strange things.
It's okay.
Now, so Marcus got there. If I was to write a book, it would be called My Life and My Shadow That Brought Me Back to Life. Now, that just in a title there,
Wow.
sure, I think that deserves to be a book. Now,
You better patent that, boy.
I reckon absolutely. And
Yes.
certainly, Mark's been a contributor to many things here at Edge Radio, and a fantastic guy who follows a lot of what we do and a great supporter, and I really appreciate that. And I would say, certainly from my interaction with him, his life's pretty interesting. I tell you right now, that would be a legacy that should be left, for other people to read. There's no doubt about that. Turn it into a book, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, AI, let's come back to AI. So, I find AI is marvelous because I tend to be a serial editor.
Right.
So, one of the reasons that I've never really ever published anything that I've written is because I'm never satisfied.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm terrible like that. I get that from my father. My father's the
Gotcha.
same. It'll take him a year to write an email, and but now in today's world,
Yep.
you can write an email to a tradesperson and you can then just write to your heart's content.
Yep.
This is how I see it anyway, Kez. Pop it into AI and then say, can you please speak in the voice of a tradesperson's CEO? and I want to put it across in a way that's compelling and that will cause them to want to do the right thing by me.
Oh, look at that. You're asking
So
for the whole
I
gamut
do go,
there.
yeah, I do go into a lot of detail. Or, you know, in a case where, you know, I might be writing about Ian, I will write, okay, there was a storyteller at the festival that I went to, Healing Festival, on the weekend, and I was a little bit intrigued, and I went past, and she'd actually written all these stories, and you know, it was a clairvoyant kind of thing, you know, where there's a lot of psychics and stuff, but I obviously wasn't in that particular vortex, but hypnotherapy and NLP is still definitely along the healing side of things. And anyway, as I was strolling past, she was very magnetic actually, and I kind of went up and started talking to her. And she said, look, you know, Terry, just open up the page, and whatever page it opens up to, that will be your story now. Sure enough, I opened it up and it was Pip and Estella, the souls from the opposite end of the spectrum. And it was about the story of how Estella was very, a little bit aloof and a little bit standoffish. And, you know, and on the other hand, Pip couldn't do enough for her. He showed much more, you know, love and life, but she was sort of holding back.
One side's
the
passionate,
love.
one side's aloof. Been there, lived that life. Yeah, okay.
But as it turns out, what happens is that Estella is given a very hard blow. So she comes across this terrible, treacherous situation, and what it does is it softens her. And so all of a sudden she softens and she is able to show her love to Pip. But when she does that, it's too late. It's like so what she explained it to me is that at the moment you're seeking like a love and acceptance from someone who doesn't have the capacity. Now, you can imagine. So what did I do with this? Just to get back to the AI
I know
thing.
exactly where you're going on this.
All right.
There we go.
So
Or maybe I'm wrong.
I grabbed all of that content because then I read into everything and I have to know everything spiritually, deeply, you name it, inside out, backwards and forwards. I took it, I threw it into AI and I said, I have been given this particular, like not scripture, but this has been a reading that I've been given about this book. Can you interpret it? And because AI has literally got the whole, you know, the gamut of everything I've ever written about, you know, Ian, the medication, his situation, it's interesting that you can refer to something 6 months later and they will remember that you've already told them something, you know, 6 months earlier, and they will actually refer back to it. But when I had it interpreted, it was done in a way that I said, well, give me a spiritual interpretation. I didn't have to go into any detail. I simply said, give me a spiritual interpretation of what this means for us. And because of the information, it was able to do that. Now, can you imagine? I then can turn around. I haven't done this, but I'm just talking because we've lost Kez for some reason.
Kez, but
we'll keep tracking and I'll keep talking on this story.
Sounds good to me,
and so you can imagine that what I could actually do is gather that from all of the findings and say to AI, can you create this into a book? But my question to Kez, if we can get her back, is if we can, you know, compile everything that we've written and said, okay, now make this for your friend Mark. Make this a book of my life. You could be just asking questions and talking to AI, just little sentences every day. Little bits of information.
Well, AI, the more you feed into it, the better you get out of it, right?
And the more they know you. But you've got to be careful on that because that can be a little bit dangerous as well, right?
Look, absolutely. I know someone who's having a relationship with Alexa, so yeah.
Is that right?
Honestly, she is. It's frightening, but there we go. For Kez, if you are actually watching now, because obviously we've lost you off the feed, we can't actually bring you back. It's actually at your end. So what you'll need to do, if you're able to watch this, is use the invite that we've sent you before. If you grab that invite and you'll pop back up in our little waiting room and it can bring you back. So if you're aware of that, that'll be fantastic. But unfortunately, yeah, we've lost you at that end, not this end. But bit of luck you're watching.
But
and
you've
we can click you
inspired
back
our
in.
show. I mean, we,
question about it.
this is what the show is all about. And Mark, what I would say to you is, if you have been able to see, getting back to that story about the woman who really wants to, create a great program and she wants to succeed on socials, but she says that I've got too many issues and she's wanting the therapy. I said to her, look, let's look at your client, what she needs, what's going on for her, and that's actually the version of her. So she's actually talking about her own story. So by creating it and, telling that story and speaking to your client from the old version of yourself.
The old version of
Yeah.
yourself. Okay.
So, for example, if you went on radio, say tomorrow,
Yep.
and you started talking about some of the feelings that you felt, okay? Because this is what really radiates to people's hearts. Sometimes context, it's your context.
Sure.
Like, that happened to you. That's what happened, 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yep.
This is today, but everyone's story is different. But if you can describe it and say, these are the emotions that I've been feeling. I felt downtrodden. I felt used.
Sure.
I felt abused. I felt like a doormat. And then,
Sounds like you're talking about my life 10 years ago. Thanks for that.
but you know what? Deep down inside, you needed to go through that
Learning exercise,
to
right?
get to where you are
100%,
now.
yeah.
Because look at you now. I mean, and this is what I was doing with this lady. So I'm like, even though you went through that,
Yep.
this is what you want today. This is what you want now. And you've got to speak into that voice of your client. Now, what happens is two things. She's creating content. She's utilising it in a way that is self-healing.
Okay.
And all done in 30 minutes because of one reason. I was able to extract her heart.
Yep.
Put it into AI and then bring it out. Now, once it's done that, like people say, oh, you can cheat through AI. You can't. You've got to be able to feed it the right information. It can't just come out with nothing.
Well, okay, I was about to say we had Kez there. She was just there until I mentioned her name. She's disappeared again. So hopefully she'll be listening to the feed and that she can just grab that. Exactly what she did before. Basically just come back in, use the invitation that we sent her before. If you click on that, the link will bring you through. We can fire with that question. The question I was going to ask Kez, and I'll ask it now because I'm feeling confident that she'll pop back up on the screen in a minute.
Okay.
There's nothing like live, right? Live. I love it because
Yes.
you keep very much alive. There, she's coming back.
She's coming back.
Flashing away.
She's
There
back.
we go. There we are,
Woohoo.
Kez. Can you hear us?
There you are. Yes.
Oh,
This must be powerful. This must be powerful. Aaron,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
yes.
absolutely, Kez. My question was, okay, because Terry's been speaking about AI and obviously in...
I can't hear a word you're saying. It's the internet here.
I feel,
Okay.
yes, maybe this is where Kez should have been on the couch today, I feel. Well,
Look,
maybe.
you're not in New Zealand, you're in Rockingham. You get in the car, we'll get you away.
Yes, yes. So, okay, so obviously this is the thing. Internet is just a magnificent thing. Can you hear me, Kez? Are you able to hear my voice?
I can hear you, Terry. Yes.
All right, maybe you can share, because obviously you've also got a magazine and you are obviously, doing these things and offering these services. So we really want to find out more about that. And you were talking to me
No,
about...
that's not clear at all.
Oh, okay. All right. So
The
I think
internet over here is actually playing up. It's all over the place.
Okay.
So I can hear you, but you keep freezing.
Okay, so that's all right. So what I'd like to do is perhaps we can ask the audience for some questions.
Yeah,
but what about
absolutely.
you, Aaron? Do you have any questions about like AI if you were wanting to utilize it for, saying your story, making content.
Yeah, look, my question or more comment really is about the fact that, look, I know that I could actually go and tell my story to AI.
Yeah.
I know that I can feed it lots of information that could actually then write my story for them because I'm not capable of it. I'm not confident with my writing. Certainly, small amount, like a post. Very confident in that regard, but certainly couldn't put a chapter together, let alone a novel.
But you speak so well. I mean, everybody that I know, and I'm not going to say my mum because I always say mum, but everybody that I know that listens always comments on what a great communicator, conversationalist you
sweet.
are.
It's very
So,
sweet.
no, but it's true, and you're not on radio for nothing. So the fact is, if you are able to speak on radio, if you are able to communicate the way you do, who cares about being an eloquent writer?
Well, that was my point. Okay, now with the tech, with AI, I can sit there in front of a computer and I can just rabbit on like I rabbit on. Let's face it, because I don't have a lot of filters. In fact, I don't think I have a filter, and I like to tell it as it is. And I'll tell you very much why. I don't like dishonesty and I hate people who lack integrity. And I also have a terrible memory as far as not the big things in life.
Well, that's why you don't lie, because you need a really good memory
That's
if you
right,
lie.
exactly right. So I've had people in my life who have told me lots and lots of inconsistent stories, all right? And they're very obviously rather being dishonest with me. I don't ever want to be that person. So you know what? You'll make friends, you'll lose a lot of friends too because you'll be very honest about it.
Yeah.
But in an AI situation, if you're able to literally, if I'm able to sit there with a computer, talk, and it's actually able to make sense of what I've said and put it in an eloquent way. Put it in a
Not
in a
even
way
eloquent. You don't want eloquent.
No?
Aaron, you would lose Aaron in the eloquence of it all. What you've got to do is, let me try something out on you here, okay? And everybody else here at home listening can think to themselves about this question as well. Who do you admire? Are you game enough to say a role model? If you were to be like, you want to achieve the next level. So, I mean, we've all, some people want to go really big and go someone really famous or someone in his history.
Yep.
Do you have a person, well, you don't have to share who it is, but do you have someone that you could think of that is even in radio or entertainment that you aspire to?
No, because I don't actually.
You
Truth
don't
be known.
aspire to anyone?
No, I really don't. I just do me.
Oh,
I
you
just
do
me.
you.
Yeah.
But don't you have like a person who you think, wow, they're amazing? Or
Oh, look, I admire particular careers. Also, I've been talking to good old Gary Shannon lately a little bit. And
he's amazing.
He's just
He played my favourite song back in the 80s.
He's a good man. Well,
He's
he
a good
lived
man.
the life in the peak of radio here in Western Australia.
He did.
And for that, I've got a lot of admiration for
6
him.
p.m.?
6 p.m. Yeah, obviously. Later on,
I remember
92.9. Later on, obviously,
Yeah.
96 FM as well. So, I admire him. I've got a lot of sporting heroes. I absolutely, he's passed now, but Ayrton Senna, an amazing hero of mine.
Yes. Not to mention Rob Williams.
Robbie Williams?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, don't you admire him? I thought
know.
you did. You know the guy, the actor.
Yeah.
And he's
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Robbie Williams, very different.
Yeah, okay, Robin.
Yes,
Robin,
yes,
get
yes.
it right, Terry.
Although I wouldn't mind
Get it
Robbie
right.
Williams's life.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Robin Williams, absolutely. Because
yes.
what I admire about him is, apart from the fact that he was incredibly talented,
yeah.
I love the fact that his entire life he got up every day and he was living in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And he lived his life to bring happiness to others.
Yes.
And I think that is an incredibly important virtue.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, you see it. You know why? Because you live it.
Exactly, and that's how I live. I
You
wish I had
can't
that talent.
you can't see something that's not inside yourself. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. No, I didn't
It's
know
true.
that. For me,
Good and bad.
good and bad. There we go. So I've got particular sporting heroes. I mean, I'm very, very lucky. I spent time with Colin McRae, the famous rally driver back in the day, and many other rally drivers. And I've had a very, very lucky life in that respect. So to be able to meet your heroes is a pretty cool thing.
That is. That's
Yeah.
do you know why I ask? I'll tell you why I ask. Because this is how it is. If you are first of all, you imagine if you're speaking into AI, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
here's my phone, right? I've actually got two, as I said to you before.
Always carry a spare.
And, you click that little button and you start speaking to AI. Okay, please tell me, in the voice of Louise Hay,
Right.
what is I would like you to talk about my life today as it is, where I'm feeling a little bit complex. 1 minute I'm feeling happy and joyous, and the next minute I have a wave of grief coming over me. And, there's so many things that I would wish to happen in my life right now, and yet there are so many things that is pointing in the opposite direction. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Can you please create, and some people laugh at me for saying please to AI as well, can you please recreate what I've just said with a little bit of voice of Abraham Hicks or Louise
Okay.
Hay, that kind of a strategy, and then da 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 da, and boom ba da boom da ba da boom,
Oh, wow.
and there you go, ricochet rabbit,
Yep.
and away she is, and out she comes, and you have a new baby. You just birthed this beautiful story. Then you can change it up and you can say, all right, now what I need is I need a meditation. I
Okay.
need some serious counselling. I need some serious therapy here.
Okay.
Can you please point me? Do you like the way I say please? I even say please to
No,
AI.
manners are important, right? I say please to Siri. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Can you please create me a beautiful meditation and affirmation that's going to be life-changing in this respect of my life?
Okay.
Boom. Okay. Then next thing, can you now point me into a direction of an ideal video that is going to be enriching to my life, that's going to be relevant
Yep.
for everything that I've just said, that's going to help me so I feel content, free, whatever it is. So that's my little share on AI
Wow,
since we
okay,
lost our
okay.
author.
Well, yeah, absolutely. On the AI thing, well, I didn't even know this. So now I know that I'm going to make some stuff. I'm going to get in there, tell my story. I want James Earl Jones or I want Morgan Freeman. They're the people. Come on.
Beautiful.
That's who, oh, man. Oh, yeah, they're the voices I want to hear for sure. And another voice I want to hear, actually, I want to bring up a point there that Mark made a little while ago and just got the opportunity to grab it. So he's put, that's why I call my past shadow.
I know when I turn around, it's still there. Wow.
Oh, mate, that's profound.
That's like, it is profound. It's a bit like, the footprints on the beach, and the behind, and it's that element that it's actually Jesus, I think, walking behind, but
Okay.
that the footprints on the beach, but the shadow that is always behind. I love that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, he's gone further here, so let's just have a look.
Yeah,
what he's
let's
written
open this right up.
there. Why not? Why not indeed? So I admired my father. He taught me everything, every value in my life, and my ambition was to be just like him and become a better version and hopefully be remembered by my children. And that's a beautiful thing, mate. I'm okay. You know how I can relate anything to cars, okay?
Absolutely.
Particular competition cars. I think in life, right, you've got to be the Evo version, okay? So you've got to be the evolution of what you learn. So I want to be a better father than my father, okay? And that's not having a go at my
amazing.
father. That's not being negative about my father. I just think everything in life, I want to be better than the person that came before me.
Yeah.
Because I want to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
I want to have that advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's called igniting.
Okay.
Speaking of cars
Did not
and
know that.
ignition.
I like that.
Ignition, igniting. So it's, and this is something that I find very much when in therapy, people, when we talk about the genius zone, they're coming from a place of pain. They're usually coming from a place of pain.
Yeah.
And if it's been where it has been predominantly in their family of origin and they've experienced something where they've been really hurt, that does ignite their power. It ignites that ability to say, well, I'm actually going to move this way and I'm going to be become that father, or
Become
I'm going to
that.
become that mother, or I'm going to become that ambassador to make sure that I make a stand for the world.
I like that very, very much. Well, we have run out of time. Look, a big thank you to Kez for floating in and out of the show. I really do appreciate it. I will say this.
She inspired us.
She did, absolutely.
We wouldn't have had this topic. We would never have been talking
100%.
about this if it wasn't for Kez.
Completely agree. I will just, like everything, I like to sneak in a little dig at the Labor Party. And, okay, I just find it funny that it is actually Mark McGowan's former seat that the internet fell over. I just enjoy that. So anywhere I can sneak it in, I'll give it a go.
How did you learn that?
Oh, yeah, there's a few things.
Aaron Malloy.
On that bombshell, we are out of here.
That was a
Thank you so
bombshell.
much for being part. Oh, geez.
Boom, boom, boom.
Here on Edge Radio Australia.